You are listening to The Ben Keech Show, where every day the objective is simple. Ben will never stop fighting the fight and lighting the light on topics that affect you every day.
Welcome, everyone, to The Ben Keech Show. We have like a mass amount of people. If you think that the world is overpopulated, look at this couch. It's proof that there are just too many people. No, not today. This will be an example to argue against myself that we have the perfect amount of people to talk about my very favorite topic, episode 82. We're talking about what's wrong with happiness. The answer should be nothing. Happiness is beautiful. Happiness is what we strive for. This is going to be the shortest episode. There's really nothing to say because there's nothing wrong with happiness unless maybe Johnathan or Bret or William. We've got Zack, we've got Daniel, we've got Steven. We've got a lot of men on this couch talking about happiness, and we're going to see what direction this goes. So thanks, everybody, for being here. I'm not really for sure. We met at a local establishment a couple of days ago and literally just talked the entire time about happiness. And it was cute. It was sweet. There was many moments that we just bonded over it. So I really don't know what's going to happen with this episode, but we'll see. So I'll open it up to William. How about William?
Why not?
I'll open it up to William. William, what's wrong with happiness? What's wrong with happiness?
I think one of the biggest things in just society today in general is I think there's been a way overcorrection on the importance of it. I think happiness is really generally, at least in my mind, something for, it's a women and children type of emotion. I think that if you're a guy or a man or whoever in today's day, and you're waking up every day saying, what's going to make me the most happy? How do I feel today? It's just only going to lead to a path of probably a downward spiral. If that is your number one priority when you're getting up every single day is how happy can I be or what makes me feel the best, it's probably not going to lead to a great spot.
That's a horrible take.
He didn't say that.
I think I'm one of the best people that can tell you why this is, because I'm big on positivity. I believe being happy and being a positive person and looking at glass half full on things makes you successful. I think success follows happiness, and it's not the other way around. I read this book. It's called The Happiness Advantage, and it's all about how investing in things that make you feel good. Maybe it's hanging out with friends, going outside, going for walks, all these different things. When they can track that you're a happy person, all these different, it's amazing because it's so much about stats and stuff. It shows you make more money, you have better relationships, your marriages are better. That's the same relationships, but the point is that, and I'm not putting it out as good as the book does, but everything is more successful when you are happy and you're content with what you're doing. And I think like when you're talking about a career or a job, you're gonna be more motivated and do a better job when it's something that you love. So I think if you get the chance to do that, then you should absolutely attack it.
I just think it doesn't matter. I think the other thing that is way overplayed is do something you love doing or you're passionate about. My approach is honestly the opposite. I don't really care what I'm actually doing. Now, if you can find something just by default, like I kind of did, the industry that I got into, yes, I would say I'm more passionate about it now than I was going into it, but that wasn't what I wasn't seeking out. What am I passionate about, or what's going to make me feel the best or the most happy? I think that should come after. So for me, it's how do I become successful in whatever field I am and use that to generate time for things that might be considered fun instead of the other way around. Because what happens to most people is they prioritize fun into where they're always just caught in this middle ground of like, I can have a little bit of fun on the weekends because I have my 9 to 5 and that's fine. And so their fun is on the weekend, but then they end up getting dragged back into the Monday through Friday of, it just kind of is what it is. People are always just looking forward to the weekend. Why is that?
I have an argument for that. I would say people look forward to the weekend because they're not happy and they're not taking happiness into things they do. But I wanted to draw this distinction the other night. I didn't get a chance to do it, but any of you guys, I guess, will, you specifically, what is your definition of happiness? Because I think there is an important distinction that needs to be made that I have in my mind.
I mean, happiness is a feeling that people almost, I feel like, associate happiness with like a place that you are for a very long time. As if it's like a destination. Like, oh, I've arrived at happiness, which it really isn't. Happiness is something that you might feel for 30 seconds and then it's gone. And you might feel it for 10 seconds and then it's gone. It's an emotion that's just flowing, just like any other emotion that happens. Mm-hmm. Just like if you're, and I would never do this, but if you're watching a TV show and you start to cry, does that mean you're a sad person? It's just, no, that's just the emotion that you felt in the moment. And so I think happiness is just overplayed. It's so overemphasized above other emotions that I just think it's not the right mind frame to always be chasing, because it's such a temporary feeling.
I would say people are mistaking happiness for joy. It's like, because joy is more of like a long-term feeling, in my opinion, and happiness is more like temporary, like William said. So
I just think also I think you just have to broaden your horizon of what you deem as happy. For me, if it's not like a terrible situation, I would consider myself kind of like what you were saying. Like, yes, go through, like, be positive, do all those things. I just don't think, I don't label myself like, oh, I'm trying to be happy. It's just, if it's not a terrible situation, I would consider myself happy. So I've just broadened the range of what I feel that is.
Going back to what you were saying earlier about when you were choosing your career, you weren't choosing something that you were necessarily passionate about. I think it all kind of stems from your goals. Like, yes, you didn't know things about insurance, but your passion wasn't what the field you're going into. Your passion was your goals on how much you wanted to make or what you wanted to accomplish. And you really were passionate about that because your goals fit that. You looked up what your goal, or you looked up ways to get to your goal, and what you went into was the best way to get into your goal. So it really was, I think, what you were passionate about. It just wasn't, you think about it differently because you've never necessarily been an insurance guy, and then you did that because of a higher goal that you were trying to reach. You weren't like, I don't know.
It gave me the most potential.
Right. Yeah. And that's what you're passionate about. That is your, yeah.
But I would also argue then at the same time that people who say they're going to do what they love doing, or they're going to do the dream job. Well, the thing is there is no dream job. Because if it is a job, you're never going to like anything, whether it's work, a person, whatever it is, you're never going to like something all the time. There's days we might look on the outside looking in and say, LeBron James, that would be the best job ever. He gets to make $50 million a year. He lives in one of the biggest cities. He has all this money, all this endorsements, all this fame. He gets to play with his son. Everyone would look at that and be like, well, yeah, give me that. I guarantee you, probably 80% of the days, he doesn't want to keep waking up early. He doesn't want to keep doing all that. There's days that he's like, I wish I could just not be ridiculed. Gets ridiculed across the media 24/7. So
would you consider working out fun?
No. It's terrible.
You don't enjoy working out?
No, I hate it. I like after it, because then I know that I accomplished. He likes the result.
I disagree, because when I go to the gym.
But again,
there's days I don't want to get up early.
Exactly.
But more often than not, I'm enjoying the moment. If I'm under the bench press, I find that kind of fun.
Yeah, but you're never...
Not every day, but most days.
You get stuck in a trap of, if you go into a career or field that you deem as if, oh, this is what I want to do, or this is my... It's like a false reality of like, I'm going to really enjoy this every single day. More often than not, especially after you do it for a while, you're not going to like it. Probably most of the days.
I disagree.
But even if you disagree, that's not the point. The point is that I think that, and tell me if I'm wrong or what you guys think, but the idea of happiness and as a goal is a bad goal, because it changes all the time. I'd rather have a goal of how I deal with setbacks, how I deal with things that aren't, like, you have to deal with that. That's more important than striving for happiness. Because when I'm not happy, how was your work? How was your day today at work? Oh, it's horrible. So that's fine. I had this bad day and this happened and this happened. And like, but like, maybe I got a lot of stuff accomplished. Like, I guess for me, I would answer the question, how was work? Like, come on, hey, honey, how's work? I would say the same thing every day. I would say, like, there's hard days, there's good days, there's annoying days. But I think men are supposed to be, I say men, we can get into the gender aspect of this if we want. There's a strength that has to come from us where we can't be emotional roller coasters for every single thing that flies in our face. Like, it can't be like we're watching a comedy, a tearjerker, and act like we can't be all over the place. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't mean that we can't be like, expressive of how we feel, or we have a bad day, we can tell our wife or whatever. Of course we can do that. But you know what? It's like, hey, there's a toughness that I think is downplayed, because I think they think it leads to men's mental health. They think it leads to suicide. They think it leads to all these things from men, these problems that men go through, because they're just too cold. They just don't express themselves enough. They're just too hard. And I was like, no, actually, we're supposed to be that way. Those
are the emotional, the men that have the huge emotional swings are the most dangerous people to society.
Why do you say that?
Those are the people that would do terrible things, because their emotions swing so far that if it goes too far in the wrong direction, that's where you get the bad stuff that happens. That's where you see school shootings, you see terrible, you see all these bad things that people do. You don't see stoicism or stoic men do those things. It just doesn't happen. You don't see it. It's the people that can't control their emotions.
You can be stoic and still be happy and fulfilled.
That's all I'm saying.
I think two things can be true. You can be happy and have discipline.
Well, I think Johnathan, I think it's a fair thing to say, and your mom and dad would agree with me. You are unique. You're a unique vantage point to the world. You're always going to offer something to the world that's going to be this like a breath of positive. It's a breath of fresh air. You are going to always be that to people around you. I think your dad's like that. I think like it's in your family. Like you guys have this like, and that's a blessing. Like that's why this topic's interesting to you, because you tend to be a glass half full. You tend to see the positives in these situations, and it just comes out of you in terms of your everyday life. And now you may not always be as happy as your front, like you have a bad day. All I'm saying, but the message though is what's wrong with happiness? It's another way to look at it is, how do we deal with unhappiness? How do we deal with when things not just aren't going right, but we're just like, a bad day, whatever. And
well, that's why I think in a lot of things, like to get the end result, you almost have to focus on everything except for that.
Oh, I agree with that.
Because I would say the same way. Yeah, you want to go through life. Yeah, you want to be nice to everybody.
But I think the point of that is you got to enjoy the journey, not just, of course you want to be rich. Of course you want to have this and that doing your career. But what's the point if you don't enjoy getting up every day and doing
I just don't put an importance on if I'm enjoying it or not.
But I think, and maybe that's fine, and I don't think I put some importance on how I feel day to day. I think the different question should be, what's wrong with instant gratification? I think it's a different situation.
You go, if you're trying to optimize yourself to be the most competent as possible, then you're going to order certain things in a line as far as what I deem important to hit my goal or whatever you're trying to go to. So if you're constantly putting emotions in the way of that, it's just constantly going to set you back.
I want to steer this, Ben. I want to answer your question. You said how to respond when you're unhappy, right? Correct. The distinction that I wanted to make is I think there are three separate, like, positive or good feelings that we experience as humans, and I think they're distinctly separate. In my mind, I imagine joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment, and then pleasure. And I think those are all very, very different things, and I think they all combine into one thing to create what most humans usually call as happiness. Like, Will, what you talk about in my mind is like, yes, I agree. If you're one of those dudes, you're waking up, you're jerking off, you're going out to drink with your friends, you're chasing that instant gratification, like Johnny just said, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to achieve your goals in the same way that someone chasing like deep, eternal joy and fulfillment will. And I think it's really important to strike a balance with that. And then tying into what you said, Ben, I think when people are unhappy, for whatever reason it may be. Maybe you're not reaching your goals. Maybe some bad things have been happening to you in your life. You try to use cheap pleasure to substitute for that very, very delicate combination that makes you happy. And I think it's so easy for anyone to fall into that. Good people. Will, I'm sure you have. This ties into what we're going to talk about with college. I'm sure you've seen great people go down that road. Maybe there's a good reason for it. Maybe there's not, but I think it's a reality. And I want to know, like, do you guys feel like sometimes you're chasing that next hit of pleasure, you know, when you're feeling unhappy? Because I feel like I struggle with that almost every day. You know,
I think that's where you see the swings. Is it's like, if any one day, if you don't have, just from my personal experience, if you don't have the mental framework built in to when stuff hits you, if you don't know how to do it, then it just spins off into all these different directions of, well, something bad happened to me, so now I need something to subsidize that or to feel happy. And so usually that ends up with chasing things that are very temporary, instant gratification. That's why you almost have to separate your emotional part from the logic and just be able to look at a situation. As much as you might want to tap into the emotional side and just say, actually, no, I'm just going to think about this completely rational, almost in a third person. So, like, for instance, if a bad thing happened, like the most recent thing I can think of was when I failed one of my exams. I'm sitting there in front of the screen, it says fail. I'm like, in the moment, I'm like, that sucks. And it sucks, but I can almost remove that and think in third person and think, yes, this sucks for me right now, but also at the same time, and it's another obstacle that I'm going to have to overcome. So by the end of it, I'll probably be better for failing. And just remove the whole, like, oh, so most people will be like, oh, do you want to go drink tonight? Or like, I'm like, no, like, I understand that it sucks, but also at the end, I'm going to come out the other side better for failing. It's like, it's almost like finding happiness in the failure. Like, great, yes, something else bad just happened. All right, now how am I going to move forward on this and improve from that experience? Because in reality, all of the good stuff that comes usually stems from something bad happening first.
Agreed.
The new movie just came out, Superman and all that, whatever. If you want to tie it into superheroes, like, his whole world had to basically get blown up for him to become Superman. Or any other Superman thing, like, you know, Batman's parents had to get shot in front of him to become Batman. So it's like you go through all these things. So when I can identify a very bad thing, it's very hard to do, but almost remove yourself from the emotional part of that and just look at it like, well, this is going to be something that I'm going to be able to eventually overcome and look back and be happy that it hasn't. Because any of the bad stuff that happened to me from the last 21 years, I wouldn't remove any of it. Not a single, nothing. As bad as it might be. That also ties into faith and just believing in that God has a plan for you. And so if I'm trying to remove something that he put there for me to go through to make me who I'm going to be, well, that's just not how you should go through life.
I think that's a great take, but as much as I want us to live in a perfect world, a lot of people aren't going to be perfect like that throughout your life. And I think that's where those low moments, like you were talking about, men doing bad things, and it doesn't even have to be bad things on such a macro scale, like committing a mass shooting, just making bad decisions such as being rude to your wife when you come home. And, you know, that stuff adds up, and then that can make a really, really big impact on your life. So then it's like, how can you respond accordingly to yourself and those emotions and intertwine logic and emotion to functionally live?
Okay, that's a good segue, because what we teach boys. So for instance, talking about, you know, taking a responsibility for your actions, or you know, there's this like this idea of what do, so you know, you guys aren't married. So what does your wife need? What will she need from you? What will she need from you? So she'll need your strength. She'll need your wisdom. She'll need your guidance. And before anybody thinks, it doesn't mean that she doesn't have these things. So just don't be that person. These are things that she needs from you. Now, what's going to happen is along the way, you're going to question if you're enough. You're going to question your own, like, you're going to go through your own, most like, maybe not everybody, but you're going to go through your own self-doubt or wonder about that stuff. So my point is that dads are raising their sons with a strength mentality of being solid, upstanding. We're honest. We're these people not because I care about how you turn out specifically, but your wife and your kids are depending upon your strength and your ability to be a moral, upstanding man. So, because we're talking about men who, fall off the rails. They have trying times and fail, which we all will. But it's the men that there was this guy that worked at First Watch. His name was Mark. He was older than me. This was obviously, I was in my 20s. This was like 30 years ago, 25, 30 years ago. And Mark never said a bad word. Just, that's not a big deal. He also would never, ever, no matter what, talk bad about anybody else. So if I'm like, Mark, can you believe what Kim, the manager, whatever? He's like, yeah, and he wouldn't take part in it. He would never gossip. He would never say a slanderous word about anybody. And I would, now you learn, like, okay, well, I'm not going to have this conversation with Mark. But it was, my point in talking about this is, it struck me as, this is a man of such integrity, such moral, like we're just waiting tables. Like, why do you care so much? Like, she is annoying, or he, whatever. But I think that's the idea of men and being consistent, men being who they say they are. And we have men that aren't raised by men. We're all, all of our dads failed. I failed. My dad has failed. Your dad's have failed. Like, that's a part of it. But but the goal and the objective in this isn't, well, I just want to have a happy life. And I just want to walk through the park and I see a lot of friends, and this is going to sound kind of bad, but their happiness is they want to play golf once a week. They want to drink beers once a week. They want to have these, I'm like, gosh, that's it. This is your life. I see people wasting their life away all the time. There's nothing of substance. Now, this is judgy of me. So there's, in my opinion, being a judgmental person, there's nothing of substance that's going on. It could be a kid playing too many videos. It could be all these things. And so I'm like, where's the substance? Where's the strength? There's got to be something more inside of you as a man. That's what we're trying to get to. So when I think of happiness, I understand what you're talking about, and maybe this goes into the breakdown of that word that you had. I just think of frivolous things that make it like a kid getting to go to Worlds of Fun makes them happy, but it's come and gone. It's like you said in the beginning, you're like, and I'm curious what you meant by this, women and children, but man, what's the difference with women and children and happiness and men? How would you describe that?
I think a lot of people think of it kind of like with a place. It's like people associate happiness as if it's like a destination that you can plug into Google Maps and say, I'm going to go to happiness, and then I'm going to be there for 3 weeks, and then I'm going to leave. It's like, that's just it's not realistic. And I think you have to know that bad things will happen at some point. Might not be today, but it could be tomorrow. And you never know which day that's going to be. And so if you're mentally not prepared to handle those things, you're going to fall apart, or you're going to take a lot longer to come out of the other side. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that chart. It's called the Valley of Despair. It's usually associated with starting something new. You start something new, you're all excited, everything's going great, you have the initial rush, all that, whatever. Then you go down this Valley of Despair. And that's basically just something, you realize, it's actually very hard. Whatever, it takes a long time to climb out of that till you eventually get to you come out the other side. I think the biggest thing that you can try to do is not try to just be oblivious to it and try to just avoid it altogether, because that's just not reasonable. It's going to happen. I think the biggest thing is just to not let yourself fall so down and just build a bridge across. So yes, the bad stuff's still going to happen. It might affect you a little bit, but how do you bridge that mental bridge to stop yourself from going so far down when those things happen, so you can get to the other side quicker? Because it's unrealistic to just think, oh, nothing's bad's going to happen, I'm not going to get tested at all. There's going to be things at some point you're going to get tested on them. An easy one to point to is death, because it's a guarantee. At some point, someone that you love or you like, that's just inevitable. People you love and are friends with, family members, at some point you're going to have to deal with that. And so that's just an easy thing to point to, but you just have to realize, and that's why I tied into happiness, is it's like, unless something like that happens that's truly just devastating, I might just be a different level of happy for the day, unless it's something truly terrible. But people associate like, oh, I'm not happy with like the littlest things. And it's like, if you can have that much of a swing on something little, that's what then causes when something big does happen, then you go way far down. And the same thing with being up. I make fun of concerts. Yeah.
I love concerts.
And that's fine. But if I look at someone and you can get so excited to go to a concert, I'm like, well, when something bad happens, you're probably going to be really, really sad too for a lot longer, because your emotional spectrum is just all over the place. When I go to a concert, even if it's kind of fun, I'm like, I mean, like, yeah, it's sure, but it's like you have to kind of play within these lines to stay level-headed on those things. Because if something's so small and so simple, you have these people that are like up in the front, and I'm looking at them, and they're like jumping up and down and like screaming, and I'm like, someone singing a song you've heard on the radio.
Like, you're just like logic. You're just like, like this is all their experience. This is all so pioneer person.
But I'm just saying, like, I look at someone like that, and I'm like, if something so simple can create such like an emotional outburst in you, to feel that passionate about something like that.
I mean, I get it.
Well, that might be so simple to you, but for them, it might have taken. Maybe they have a very low income, and they've been like saving for 3 years. Like, they've put this in their calendar. I'm going to sit front row, or I'm going to be front row, jumping up and down with my 3 closest friends, and I'm going to work.
Just have fun.
And that's one of their goals. That might not be one of yours, but
I know, but it's just like like, I don't know. I think that also ties into the success at the same point, because your stress levels and what you can tolerate is going to be directly correlated with how successful you are.
But I also think how successful you'll be will be correlated on, do you enjoy what you're doing?
So what if you had to build a perfect person to be as successful as possible? How would you frame it?
I think that
You would say they get up every time at the same point. They do all this. They work all the time. They do what they're supposed to do.
But you can't work all the time if you don't. I think you'll become a lot more interested and care a lot if you enjoy what you're doing. And I think you agree with me, and I agree with you, because you're saying when bad things happen, the best things come from them. And I think that's a great point, and I totally agree. But I don't think you can, like...
You have to become comfortable with struggling.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the hard stuff.
You have to enjoy struggling. You have to find happiness in struggle.
But it's just not.
I find happiness in struggle, actually.
That's what working out is. Like, it's just such an easy example. Getting up at 6 a.m.
As long
you find joy from it.
I find I have a lot of goals, and there's a million steps to get them. So as long as I'm moving forward, even if there's struggles along the way, I'm good. Like, I'm very content. I'm at peace. I would be a mess if I was doing nothing. If I was sitting up in my room all day, or if I didn't have a direction, I think that's for me. I would not be happy. I have a direction, I'm happy. That's for me. It's as simple as that.
I think and you guys can tell me what you think, but I think the happiest as a man you could be is by providing happiness for other people.
Mm.
So if that's, let's just example, wife, kids. If they're happy and you're providing them the happiness, then does it really matter if
Then
the
you
last
are
10 years
happy.
have sucked, like as they suck? But I might not feel like that.
Oh, it's the...
So do you ever... I think 2 things can be true. I can enjoy the next 10 years of my life and still be successful and still be able to give my kids joy.
That's my plan, Johnny.
That's
Right
my
now.
plan too.
You can
Enjoy my 20s and be successful after.
I think there's a
We don't want
difference between like trying
take
to
longer.
enjoy it, but also understanding, like what you were kind of understanding that you're not always going to enjoy all of it, and just that keeping that end goal in mind of even when things are down or whatever, that they're keep moving forward. And
But that ties into your goals. Like if your goal is to, like, it depends on also what your goals are, and what I think that also it circles back to like what you deem as happy and what you deem your goals to be out. If your goal, like, I look at everything as a competition. So
I think that you're setting yourself up for unhappiness.
but I wouldn't consider myself an unhappy person.
Comparison is the thief of joy. So you're saying,
I'm not comparing.
let's say Zach has more money than, okay, maybe you're not. Competing kind of is comparing yourself to other people because there's a winner and loser, which is not a bad thing to push yourself, because I think you two brothers probably, let's make it a race.
Comparing is different because there's a victim mentality in comparing. Yeah, I have to be careful with comparing.
Okay, but there's a loser in competing too. It's
Sure.
Well, but that's how life is. Life is winners and losers.
Losing and winning is different than comparison.
I don't think because Zach makes $1 million before me, that means I lost.
That's okay, fine. But that's not the point. The comparison would be more that, your girlfriend that you've been dating for 2 months and you dated another girl for a year before her. Okay, and you guys broke up and you're fine. Now you date this girl for 2 months, and she's comparing. Well, you did this for her and not for me. It's like comparison is a killer. Like don't don't do that. Like you're asking. That's what I'm saying. Comparing. I'm comparing like what someone does versus like. It doesn't mean that like so your girlfriend of 2 months. The way she should communicate that. Like let's say you took your other old girl for you. I mean, you're taking your new girl out to eat or something. Like whatever. Let's just say even it's innocent. It's what she should be doing is expressing how she feels. Like, hey, when you plan a date or we do this, like I really love it. It makes me feel great or whatever. Versus you used to do that with her, Susie, and you never do that with me. Like I was like, man, don't compare. It's not. I mean, I'm not living in that world. That's why I think of comparison. That's why I'm saying comparison and competition is different. She's not. In other words, the two girls aren't competing. They shouldn't be, even though they do sometimes. They should.
I think you have to identify who the competition is, and then just acknowledge if me and you are competing in, let's just say we run the same business. Let's say we both own gas station companies. I would argue that my mental framework is going to not necessarily outwork, but it's going to work over the long run. And I'm more likely to be successful in that because I'm going to remove. It's just like the quote,
But
the
you're
person
worried about my gas
all the
station
time, regardless of how they feel, is going to outcompete the person that goes to the gym when they feel like going.
Yeah, wait. I just do want to say competition, there is inherently a comparison in that. It's a logical fallacy if you say there's no comparison in competition, because then you have no way to like objectively and quantifiably prove a winner and a loser in a competition. So I do.
What's the comparison?
You have to measure
whose gas station is better,
right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a level of like comparison.
It's different. It's different.
It's definitely different, but like the competition aspect is my goal in whatever I am doing is to always be the best at that.
So what do you measure in order to prove that you're the best? Because you have to measure something.
Well, we could say more like this. I think a better example would be if they both were managers of a Quick Trip, and there's measuring things within how successful that Quick Trip is doing. So they're competing like, hey, my store is going to outsales here. We're going to have less waste. And so there's a competing there to see who wins, but it's to be the best version of themselves. And that's my point. That's competition. And you could, and that's comparison, but in a box. I guess when I think of comparison, I think of an unhealthy, but that's not unhealthy. I think of an unhealthy comparison.
I think like an easy like comparison that you might be able to like draw to is money is like an easy just like metric because it's something that's so easily measurable. $2 versus $1. It's something easy that can just be so easily identified. I think the comparison might be able to come in not in like the victim way, but like use it almost as an advantage of like an analysis of the playing field. So It's like if I'm competing against you, I might compare myself and say, okay, I know that he has these 5 skills. I know that he likes to do these 5 things. Well, what can I do now as to compete with that? Mm-hmm. Not like, oh, he was, he's born and he's, 3 inches taller than me and his wingspan is like, if you get into those games, then yeah, you're playing like I'm a victim because
he has this, I don't have this, or you started with 3 gas stations, I only have 1 because I only inherited 1, and you're playing these comparison games that act against you. But if you're sitting there like using it as like a, Quick Trip, okay, well, how am I going to beat Quick Trip? So Quick Trip does these things. How as a new gas station do I come in and try to beat you?
Okay, but I think the point you're trying to make is, I think, sure, it's great to see other things, to learn from other people, but you should still just be competing with yourself. You shouldn't. You're gonna learn more from looking in the mirror than out the window.
But I think a healthy mix of both.
I think it's a healthy mix of both. But I will say, like, to agree with you, Jonathan, that I think, and this is a problem that plagues men, so maybe not you men yet, but men, 100%, is that men have the difficulty of being a man at times is that because we're the providers, because we're the protectors, and let's say like you live in a rich suburb, okay, so the neighbor has a new jacuzzi, the next neighbor just built a new deck, and you're like can't even fertilize your lawn, or and so as a man you do compare all the time, and sometimes that's not healthy because you're so I'm not in competition with my neighbors. I have to find I can be content with my place. If I make $50,000 a year and they make $100,000 a year, it can torment men. Like they do measure sometimes their worth based on their paycheck, and so it's tricky because there's a competition side. We want to compete against ourselves, want to be the best that we can be, keep those emotions out of it, drive forward, be stoic. But then the other side of it is that men can mess their own minds up in the comparison game by I'm not enough, or I didn't do enough, and they feel guilty and they feel bad, and that can then spiral them into a depression and just go off the deep end. And a lot of times the women are proud of them for what they are, not always, but they can be, the optimistic side is they can be proud of who they are and what they're doing, but the man is just like beating himself up about all the time. I think I would wonder, for a successful man, when he's not successful, is he okay? Or when he fails, is he okay? The same way I would worry about a man who, is less than in some area, doesn't make as much money, but is he doing his thing as a dad? Is he doing his thing as a husband? Is he being a good neighbor, a good role model? And like, I made up my mind, I don't care. Like, I never fell down that trap because I always liked myself a lot, and not in a proud way, but I'm very thankful for who I am. So I was never going to fall into this trap of comparing myself to any other man, because honestly, I didn't want to be them. Even though there is richer, better looking, smarter, I'm great with what I am. So I thankfully didn't fall into that trap, but a lot of men do. And, it's...
Well, I think that's where the faith aspect of it is like, I feel like if you aren't maximizing to the absolute fullest who you are in the gifts that God has given you, then you're doing a disservice to Him. Why, if I give somebody a gift and they just throw it away, are you likely to give them another one? Probably not. So if you get these gifts, it's like, so if you have certain gifts, I feel like it's almost a duty to Him to fully maximize to the absolute most every little thing that He gave you. Because I feel like if you're not, then you're not maximizing what He gave you.
I know that Stephen, Daniel, that we're having anybody that I've said a lot. What I have like it's pretty closing. No, I know it's all good.
It must have been
Any closing comments and stuff. Anything, just a thought for the crowd, or anything to get out that'll make you happy to say.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I would say is, the thief of all joy is comparison, right? Comparing your worst to everybody else's best. Like, that's going to get you nowhere. And, I believe you're either going somewhere or you're going nowhere. And a man without vision shall perish. Like it's said in the word, if you're a man without a plan, like you're halfway cooked. But kind of how William started it off, like with happiness, if your number one goal when you wake up is, I want to be happy, then you're probably not going to want to try hard things. You're probably not going to want to fail because your number one goal is to be happy, right? So if you start the day with happiness and you do whatever to be happy with it, you hop on the video game real quick before work, but then, as soon as you get to work, you're not happy. So like if your number one goal is to be happy, like you're not going to find it. And if you're looking for happiness, that's probably the quickest way to become depressed, is what I would think.
I agree that when you wake up and your goal is, how can I be happiest today? That's not good, because that leads to what you guys are talking about, like quick
Instant gratification.
But I think if you're waking up, what can I do today or for the next week to be the next 10 years, to where in 30 years, me and my family will be the most happiness. I think that's like the biggest distinction between if you're looking at instant gratification versus what can I do each day to build to a happier life in the future.
But I think you can still enjoy that process.
Yeah, of course.
You can, but you have to be okay with failing.
That's hard to think.
Failure is not fine. It's you fail to adjust. Right.
You remind me of Jalen Hurts.
No, but even that there is a risk still with the thought of like the happy place in 30 years, because you could even associate that with like something that's easier to measure, because like I said, emotions will come and go. But for instance, if you just put it like, some people put it as like a dollar sign. Mm-hmm. So like once you get to 1 million, well then you want 2, and then you want 3. So and it might not happen, but I'm just saying, I feel like if you put happiness as like this thing that, oh, I'm gonna get there, it's like a destination that you're getting to, but then you're gonna get there, and then what else it's like, now what? We've heard it from a ton of rich people, like they had this desire in their 20s to get rich, and then what do you know, they're 50 and they look back and their family's gone. It's like, what really matters, right? Yeah. And those are, the money hungry people. Money is cool, but like, what really matters, right? Like, if you ask your person on their deathbed what they wanted to do more, I guarantee you, I think the stat is like 90% of them spend more time with their family. Like, that's what they've said. Not, oh, I wish I was richer. Like, that's not what you're thinking about in your last 10 minutes. You're thinking about, what kind of impact did I leave on my family? How are my kids going to remember me? What kind of legacy am I leaving? Not just a money legacy, but what did I pour into my kids? What did I actually leave with them internally? Not just, the dollar bill that you left them.
And that's why I think y'all are listening to Johnny, but y'all aren't hearing it. That's what he's saying. He's saying that results aren't the measure of happiness, whatever they are. It's about the experience and putting yourself in a state of happiness, regardless of what it is. Because you guys are exactly right. In 50 years, you might not even live 50 more years. And if you do, you might be broke, but you have the ability to choose to be happy right now for whatever reason with whatever you have, and to enjoy that struggle and to enjoy the imperfection of your current state.
The differentiation that I make with what Jonathan's saying is that my happiness, like I think like we have like, there's like the worldly view of happiness that is, let's just say it's thrills and frills. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's like, I don't think that's what you're saying, but I think that that's when you say what's wrong with happiness, it's a feeling. And so I reject my drive for happiness has nothing to do with a feeling. It has to do with my direction of my life and what I'm doing with my life. I would not be happy if I wasn't doing A, B, and C. Mm-hmm. It inverts it. So in other words, my goals, let's just say, where I'm going in my life, even though I know that I'm going to fail at goals or things, but it's that progress. I just think happiness, like give you an example today. I told my employees there's a rain. I told them they could start working at 1:00. I'd cut people's how many people wanted to work at 1:00 today? None of them. You think I care about their little feelings about their work and they're crying about hours, or I could care less because you don't want to work enough. Now, why? What are you doing with your time, with your life? Oh, I just needed the day. I just needed this. I'm like, okay. Like, I just don't have I just think there's a soft happiness mentality that I would attack, that you have a job to do, and you have like you deciding to go to college, not go to college, or whatever you're gonna do. Your job is like how you're preparing for your kids and your life. And like, think about it now, not when you're 30, Think about it when you're 18. Think about it when you're 16. The quicker that you get goal oriented for the bigger picture of your life, the better. And I think there's happiness when you're making those strides, even though they're 7. So
That's my point.
yeah, but I just think defining the word happiness, I think
We all agree, and our wording is different, but I think we all agree
you guys that are watching,
that we want fulfillment, not happiness.
yeah. Joey's not. It's fine, Joey's.
Joey,
We love Joey.
that's right.
We're going to end this happy moment on this episode with that. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of this episode. I'm sure there's lots of opinions and thoughts that you guys have, so share those with us. Signing off until next time. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. Let's keep the conversation going. You can reach out on Ben's website, www.benkeechshow.com, or on social media to chat. And please remember to subscribe so that you never miss an episode.